Today on Earth Focus, Food Heroes. A new film looks at why combat veterans turned to farming, America's organic pioneers, and new models for food production. Coming up on Earth Focus.
It's important to me that war doesn't define who I am. I don't want to spend the rest of my life just being a guy who fought in the war in Iraq.
In November, we were ordered to once again hit Fallujah, and that was just complete chaos. Most reporters call it, a 6 days in Fallujah. For most of us, it was more like 3 to 4 weeks of intense combat. And by the time we were done, we had lost 33 Marines, and the city was in bad shape. It was pretty much destroyed.
We have a film. We like to say that in a world full of problems, Ground Operations is a story about solutions. We have a lot of veterans coming back, both from Iraq, who've been here for a while, and from Afghanistan, who are coming home now. PTSD often doesn't show up right away. It can be a year or two or more before it really starts to show up.
You're always on alert. You're thinking of the worst scenarios that are going to happen. And
we were going through the town, and we had snipers on the building. They were firing at us, and bombs were blowing up everywhere. And a mortar came in, and it blew up the same side of the door that I was on, and I was injured from that. And I took shrapnel to my head and to my legs. I was scared like anybody would be. I didn't want to die there. I hadn't seen my family for 15, 16 months. And I looked up and I started praying. I said, Lord, if you get me home to see my family, at least just one more time, I told him, I said, I promise I will make my life worth saving. I'll go back and I'll create something so great that helps so many other people and to give back to other people.
So many of them just get disgusted with the system and say, the heck with it, I can't get any help from the VA, and that's how they end up homeless, or that's how they end up suicidal, or all of these negative things that happen to these folks because the system is so broken.
I know a handful of guys who survived the war only to shoot themselves in the head since they've been back.
Veterans need real options when they're coming back. They don't just need a program and some pamphlets or a little bit of counseling. They need options that are going to allow them to take care of their families, to pay their bills, and to start a new life.
The Veterans Affairs is supposed to pick up where the Defense Department leaves off, but there's no transition program really within the Veteran Affairs.
One of the things that's the hardest for the vets when they come back is they've been a part of a unit, a really tight unit, all on the same mission. And when they come home and they don't have a mission and they don't have a unit, that's a lot what leads to the isolation, which then can lead to the drug and alcohol abuse, which then very often leads to suicide. And what I have found from the veterans I've interviewed is that they really had to seek their own salvation and find their own way back into what we would call civilization, the civilian world. There's something about farming and working with the soil and working with living plants and with livestock, animals, that after you've been in a culture of death and war, to be in the culture of life and sustaining and creating life is deeply healing.
I'm not ashamed of my service or what happened in Iraq, but I learned that when working with living things, you become a nurturer instead of a destroyer. And that was a really significant realization for me.
The thing about it is, we come out here, I'm working outside in fresh air. I don't care how I felt last night or how good I didn't sleep last night because of issues that I have. And, you know, I come here, work all day, I feel like $1 million. And
I was on medications, so many medications that I was able to come off, like blood pressure medications, and some of the PTSD meds, I could lower some of those meds. I actually saw my cognitive skills getting better. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. This is working for me, and so many guys come back. Why can't this work for them? And this is where we got the first farm started with the Veterans Farm.
And we can have guys out here in a wheelchair picking. I mean, we're setting it up perfect so that disabled veterans can work on this farm and they can feel like they're a part of the community again. And that right there makes such a difference to people's lives.
You know what's really healing is, number one, a job, but number two, doing something that's needed, doing something that's necessary, doing something that, you know, having a new mission, having a new purpose.
Your service doesn't have to end when you leave the military. That serving you, there's ways to serve other than the military. I think if you don't carry that forward, it seems that those are the people who weren't satisfied with their transition and weren't happy with what they picked next.
You know, we are headed toward a time when we will have close to 9 billion people living on this earth. At the same time, we know that the resources for producing food are dwindling as we're developing areas and taking them out of agriculture. This is going to be the defining issue of this century, is how we are going to figure out to feed ourselves with so many people.
In America, only 1% of people farm and only 1% of people go into the military. So most of us really don't know veterans, and most of us don't really know farmers.
We both wanted to start farms, and we decided we should just try to start a farm together. And you know, people kind of cautioned us against, you know, being business partners and being in a relationship together. But so far, so good. So, you know, it ended up being really wonderful.
We're a small farm, which means that we can really put in a lot of thought into the quality of our produce, more so than grocery stores or a lot of other farms out there.
You know, farming's not for the faint of heart. We're lucky that they're stepping up to take over our food system, those who are, because they just don't take no for an answer. They are mission-driven people, and so if there are obstacles that come up, well, those are just obstacles to overcome on the mission. So an example of that would be a young man in Los Angeles, D'Artagnan Scorza.
The military helped me build, I believe, the skills that were necessary to be effective. When I returned from the military, I recognized that I had the ability to create change in my own community. We have 25 fast food restaurants in a square mile right here on Crenshaw and Century, which is just 3 blocks from this high school. But very few supermarkets in and throughout the city, and I think we're seeing that trend around the country in multiple communities.
And when he came home, he got his PhD at UCLA. He went back to the high school that he had attended in Inglewood and started working with the young students there and said, well, what do you want to do in the community? And they all said, we want to grow food.
As an organization, we created an initiative called 100 Seeds of Change, which is our commitment to building 100 community school and home gardens in and throughout the city of Inglewood and South Bay. The goal of that is to build a local food system and to build local production.
What are we doing today, Kia?
Oh, no. We're giving away fruit trees to the community.
Today we're giving 1,000 trees to 1,000 families. Our youth are committed to eliminating our community's designation as a food desert, and it's important that we provide these fruit trees as food assets so people can grow food for themselves. The community can begin to feed itself. Say trees!
Trees!
We're just darn lucky. We've got somebody who's stepping up. We're losing half of our farmers in the next 10 years to retirement. We need someone to step up, and there are very few people, especially in this country, who are willing to really do that kind of hard work. But veterans are. And so the tagline for our film is America needs 1 million new farmers. Veterans want the job. So let's help them.
The health of human beings has to be part of our national security. We can empower vets to be in organic, sustainable agriculture. What a great way to do something that's very worthwhile, to be in a market that is growing. I mean, you can be successful in this.
I think it's an incredible marriage of a need for veterans to be
continuing to improve American national security and a need for America to develop a nationally secure food system. So marrying those two together is just an unbelievably brilliant double solution to two very disparate problems.
The vets that are coming back, turning their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, they are showing us, along with many others, that it is possible to create a fair food system, and they're doing it.
I really see in these veterans not just farmers, but leaders of the farmers, leaders of this next generation of farmers. They're articulate, they're focused, they're extremely entrepreneurial. They've taken on the military and they're taking on agriculture. They're taking on the two hardest things in our society, and they're not even 30 years old. They're amazing young men and women.
I'm in such a better mood. I feel as though I have a goal. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
I've come to the conclusion that that's exactly it. I've sort of found some peace and contentment, and it's been so long since I've had it that it felt foreign to me, you know?
In 100 years from now, we look back at these times, there's going to be so profound things that are said about Americans living right now. And hopefully they say good things, and I want to be part of that.
At this point, maybe I've brainwashed myself, but at this point, I can't even imagine anything more important than growing food.
This is it. Teach these guys how to farm. They can feed themselves, they can feed the community, they can feed their family, they can have a sustainable life through sustainable agriculture.
To transition from a battlefield to a farm field is almost makes more sense than transitioning into like Dilbert's cubicle or a classroom of 18-year-old kids who have never seen anything but, you know, reality TV, you know, and when you've gone out and seen the world and had your friends die in your arms, and you're coming home and you're 26 years old and you're looking for where is my place in this life, we feel like this is a place, you know, where you can take all those things that you brought into the military, your strength, your bravery, your ability to stand up when you're knocked down, your sense of service, your sense of sacrifice, and your just willingness to carry the world on your shoulders.
As combat veterans take up farming, some farmers are finding healthier ways of producing food by going organic.
The way we eat has to change. We see the easy way of doing things, yet we go the harder road. It's very rewarding. My name is Ross Nelson. This is Nelson's Organic Dairy in southeast Minnesota. This is my family farm. I farm here with my folks, Laverne and Arlene.
We have 365 acres. We milk around 85 cows.
Growing up, it was hard. Farming was kind of tough because we were conventional, and the fluctuating prices almost on a day-to-day basis. And then organic came along, and they find a price that seems to work for everyone, and it stays there. We're part of Organic Valley, which is one of the largest organic milk co-ops in the nation.
Because we're set up organic, we try to be as sustainable as we can.
The cattle have to be fed certified organic feed with no GMOs, no hormones, no antibiotics, no pesticide, herbicide, or insecticide. 30% of all that they eat in a day has to come from grazing.
This is where they pretty much stay all summer in pasture land, and then we'll be working it back up again, plowing it up, putting in corn 1 year, and then we'll put it right back into pasture again. What's good for the soil is good for us.
In the conventional side of it, everyone's so focused on how much can we get out of this cow. And I think on the organic side of it, it's, how healthy can I get this cow?
For us, there was just health issues. My parents had both been taken ill with insecticide. And then Laverne was sick in 2 years right in a row. You started to pay attention to what you were using, what you were doing, how was that affecting your health?
Conventional farming, so easy to go put in a crop of corn, come out and spray it with a cancer-causing ingredient. I mean, it's not rocket science to know that it isn't good.
When we went organic the first year, it was such a good feeling.
To know that you did it without poisoning the ground or hurting anyone, there's a sense of satisfaction that comes with that. I would like to see the whole country go organic. I know when I consume what we produce, or if people consume anything off of our land, I'm not subjecting them to any toxic materials, and that sure helps me with peace of mind.
We abuse land because we regard it as a commodity that belongs to us. When we see it as a community to which we belong, we can treat it with love and respect.
I think we're doing, really well for our size, supporting 2 families, and I wish everyone could experience it. It's hard work, long hours, but yeah, it's very rewarding.
I never thought I would be a farmer. 3 years ago, I did an apprenticeship with a local organic farmer, and now I run Radix Farm. I use natural growing methods following organic standards to grow a diverse array of vegetables, over 45 different kinds and varieties. I lease 3 acres from a larger farm that does industrial corn soy production. I keep a buffer zone between my farm and the corn soy. If the herbicide sprayed on that part of the farm gets onto my vegetables, they'll die just like that. Most of the farming in the Chesapeake Bay is large monoculture crops of corn and soy. They're spraying a lot of synthetic herbicides and fertilizer, and it affects the soil quality and it ruins the biodiversity of the land. Instead of pesticides, I use a lot of different things. Row cover is one. Just put it over the crops and it keeps the pests out. I grow a diverse landscape of flowers or diverse crops so that I'm encouraging beneficial insects to be in my farm and they can take care of the bad insects. When people say you can't grow large amounts of food without chemicals, I say you definitely can. I'm on only about an acre or 2, and I'm feeding well over 200 people, harvesting 15 to 20,000 pounds of vegetables each year. Over time, using organic practices, the soil quality improves so that you can grow more and become more efficient and increase your yield. In the 3 years that I've been on this land, I've already noticed the soil quality is improving bit by bit. Things are starting to fall into balance. Through farmer training programs in the region, more people are not only wanting to learn about farming, but they're staying committed to farming, and they're really getting out there and doing it. It's so inspiring to see the growing movement of new farmers in this region. I get more out of 1 acre to feed a family than industrial monoculture farming can. With the growth of more sustainable farms in the region, we are able to feed more and more people more efficiently, and it's more nutritious food. I sell directly to families in DC through a CSA program. I'm able to provide the majority of vegetable needs for the families in the CSA. What I love about being part of this movement of sustainable farmers in the Chesapeake region is revitalizing the environment and bringing fresh, healthy, nutritious food right to people's plates.
Pescadero, California-based Pie Ranch builds innovative partnerships to cultivate healthy food systems. One partnership saved a family farm while providing a high-tech company with healthy, locally grown food.
There's this beautiful tradition of family farming on the coast that's quietly and rapidly disappearing. And we don't want to see that happen. There's all this knowledge of the soils, the water, climate, what it takes to produce crops. We don't want to see that disappear.
The Garibaldi family came over from Italy in 1892. I'm the 4th generation, my son and daughter the 5th. Our family came to Pescadero to grow in this nice ranch 44 years ago.
The flower market was good in the early days, and we did it for 40-something years, and we're successful at it.
At one time, there were 48 vendors that grew their own stuff. Then it started changing. South America got involved.
Everything we grew, they grew, and they grew it better and cheaper. In the last 10 years, when the business kind of started going south, and then the decision was made a year ago to call it quits, and it was pretty heart-wrenching.
68 years going to the market, and you just cold turkey quit. When 5 generations have been doing this, that was hard to take.
Over the last 10 years, we at Pie Ranch have developed a diverse operation and educational farm. We have been looking for a partner to scale what we've learned to a sustainable working farm. The Año Nuevo site offered the perfect venue to do this.
Out of nowhere, this nice gentleman living across the street from us came in to visit us. We started talking, and immediately we hit it off. We said, this is going to work.
We're not just looking at creating a sustainable farm, but we're really wanting to have, from production all the way through to consumption, be sustainable. We needed the upfront operating capital and customer base to make this idea a reality.
One of the unique aspects of Google being located in Mountain View is we're so close to so many great farms. And what we're trying to do over here is to provide Googlers with delicious, nutritious, local food, but actually make the connection with food as well. So as a large organization, we have committed that we're going to buy this year and over the years to come a large part of his farm production up front. So we're providing with the cash flow, so actually he doesn't have to worry about will he be able to pay the bills as he's waiting for his crops to grow.
This project is giving us the opportunity to develop an innovative CSA. In a traditional CSA, you have a group of customers in your community who support a farm financially throughout the season and in return get a share of the harvest. Google is committing in advance like a CSA member would. This not only allows us to take the best care of the land, but also the people who are working the land.
I get to keep my crew, and that meant a lot. I told Jared, I'm on board only if you keep these guys, because if not, I don't want to stay, you know. Without them, we're nothing.
They know the soil, they know the systems. If it weren't for them, we would not be able to hit the ground running and growing the diversity of crops that we wanted.
It helps that local community, Pescadero, to remain viable. It helps us to connect actually Googlers with the original food, a farmer.
We're going to be able to integrate what's being eaten in the cafe during the day coming from the farm with what can be taken home by an employee over the weekend.
The Schmidt Family Foundation's mission is to support programs that are environmentally and economically viable and support local communities.
Which is why we are working closely with the two partners, Pie Ranch and Google, to prototype a new financing model that enables smaller farms to sell their produce upfront and directly to large organizations and stabilize their cash flows.
So the Schmidt Family Foundation has played a critical role by providing us financing. And that helps us take care of some of the immediate needs of getting started, like buying equipment. But beyond that, this allows us to develop a whole new supply chain option for farmers. We're excited. We've got our first planting of wheat and barley and vegetable crops like the peas and fava beans and chard and kale. So we're rolling.
Now the ranch, I look, it's like, okay, we got wheat growing out there, and it's like, okay, that's a first. I've never seen it. We're going to eventually have animals and pasture. It's like, wow, but I'm excited about it. It's a change in the right direction.
We're going to continue on as far as we can go.
We're just super excited about the potential of having this model move us from an anonymous food system to one where relationships help to drive sustainability.
So success for me would be if large organizations over here in the Bay Area, in the US or around the world, would actually learn from this model and apply it and probably do it even better than we can imagine as of today.
Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.